Look around you. How many people would still stand beside you if you lost your money, your influence, your status, your usefulness? How many smiles would disappear the moment you had nothing left to offer? From the earliest years of life, you are taught one of the most comforting ideas imaginable, that true friendship is unconditional. Parents encourage you to make friends. Teachers praise teamwork and loyalty. Stories celebrate companions who remain faithful through every hardship, while films fill your imagination with lifelong bonds that never weaken, no matter how difficult life becomes. These lessons shape your expectations long before you have enough experience to question them. You begin to believe that once someone calls you a friend, they will naturally remain by your side through every success, every failure, every change, and every challenge. It is a beautiful belief, but beauty has never been proof of truth. Reality follows a different set of rules. Human relationships are rarely built on unconditional devotion. They are built upon shared experiences, mutual interests, emotional needs, convenience, admiration, and personal benefit. This does not mean every friendship is fake or every person is dishonest. It simply means that most relationships exist because both people receive something valuable from them. Sometimes that value is companionship. Sometimes it is entertainment, support, knowledge, opportunity, or a sense of belonging. As long as those needs are fulfilled, the relationship appears strong. When those needs begin to disappear, the bond often weakens in ways that surprise those who believed it was permanent. Think about how many friendships begin because two people happen to share the same environment. They attend the same school, work in the same office, live in the same neighborhood, or pursue the same goals. Daily interaction creates familiarity, and familiarity creates emotional attachment. Over time, it becomes easy to mistake proximity for permanence. Yet when life changes, those shared circumstances disappear. One person moves away, changes careers, starts a family, or develops different priorities. Slowly, conversations become less frequent. Messages take longer to receive replies. Meetings become occasional instead of routine. Eventually, the friendship fades without any dramatic conflict. Nothing terrible happened. The conditions that supported the relationship simply no longer existed. Many people interpret this as betrayal when it is often the natural result of changing lives. Human beings are constantly evolving. Their ambitions change, their responsibilities grow, and their attention shifts toward new challenges. Expecting someone to remain emotionally identical for decades ignores the reality of personal growth. The person who once depended on your company during difficult times may later find confidence, new relationships, or different priorities. Their affection may not disappear completely, but its place in their life changes. Another reason unconditional friendship becomes an illusion is that every individual carries invisible desires and fears. No matter how generous someone appears, they still possess ambitions they wish to achieve, insecurities they hope to hide, and personal struggles they fight every day. These inner forces quietly influence every decision they make. When a friendship supports those needs, it flourishes. When it conflicts with them, difficult choices emerge. Many people imagine they would always sacrifice their own interests for a friend, but when confronted with real opportunities or real risks, self-preservation often becomes stronger than loyalty. Observe how people behave when circumstances shift dramatically. A promotion changes workplace dynamics. Financial success changes social circles. Public recognition changes the balance between admiration and envy. Failure changes who chooses to remain nearby. In each situation, relationships reveal hidden layers that were invisible during comfortable times. The friend who celebrated your achievements while they remained equal to theirs may become distant when your success surpasses their own. Another who rarely spoke to you may suddenly become attentive once your influence grows. These changes are not always conscious or malicious. They often arise from emotions people barely understand themselves. The mistake most people make is believing that kind words guarantee lasting commitment. Words are easy to offer because they require little sacrifice. Nearly everyone promises lifelong loyalty during moments of happiness. The real measure of any relationship appears when maintaining that promise becomes inconvenient. When standing beside you demands time, energy, reputation, comfort, or opportunity, many discover limits they never expected to have. Their intentions may have been sincere when they made their promises, but sincerity alone cannot overcome changing circumstances or competing priorities. This is why disappointment often feels so personal. You believe the relationship existed outside the ordinary rules of human nature. You assumed affection alone could overcome ambition, fear, jealousy, distance, and self-interest. When reality proves otherwise, it feels like a unique betrayal. Even though the same pattern has repeated throughout history across families, friendships, partnerships, and alliances, people rarely abandon others without reason in their own minds. They justify their choices through necessity, opportunity, personal growth, or survival, convincing themselves they are simply doing what life requires. There is one force that quietly shapes more human decisions than love, loyalty, or even morality, yet most people spend their lives pretending it does not exist. That force is self-interest. It is the invisible engine behind countless actions hidden beneath polite conversations, generous gestures, and promises of unwavering support. People rarely admit that they are motivated by their own needs because society teaches them to value selflessness. As a result, they often disguise their personal desires in noble language, convincing both themselves and others that every decision is made for the benefit of someone else. But if you observe carefully instead of listening blindly, you will notice a simple pattern repeating itself everywhere. Most people choose the path that protects, benefits, or advances their own lives. This does not mean that humanity is incapable of kindness or compassion. People are capable of extraordinary generosity, remarkable sacrifice, and genuine affection. However, even these qualities often exist alongside personal needs and desires. A person may help a friend because they truly care, but they may also enjoy the feeling of being appreciated. Someone may offer advice because they want the best for another person, but they may also want to feel respected or important. Human motivation is rarely pure. It is usually a mixture of emotion, reason, personal satisfaction, and self-preservation working together beneath the surface. One of the greatest mistakes you can make is assuming that because someone smiles at you, supports you, or speaks warmly about you, they have placed your interests above their own. Most people never reach that point. They may genuinely like you, respect you, and enjoy your company, but when faced with a choice between protecting their future or protecting yours, many will naturally choose themselves. This is not always an act of betrayal. It is often the result of a deeply rooted instinct that has guided human survival for thousands of years. Long before civilizations were built, survival depended on securing food, safety, and opportunity. Those instincts still exist today, though they appear in more sophisticated forms such as career advancement, financial security, social status, and personal happiness. Look at how people behave when valuable opportunities appear. Friends who once encouraged one another suddenly become competitors when only one promotion is available. Business partners who spoke endlessly about trust begin arguing when large sums of money are involved. Family members who appeared united become divided over inheritance or property. None of these situations create selfishness from nothing. They simply expose priorities that were hidden while circumstances remained comfortable. Pressure reveals what comfort allows people to conceal. Many individuals also support others only as long as the relationship aligns with their own emotional needs. Someone may remain close to you because your success inspires them, your confidence strengthens them, or your attention makes them feel valued. But if those emotional rewards disappear, the relationship often changes. A friend who enjoyed being your closest companion may become distant once you develop new priorities. Another who constantly sought your advice may lose interest after finding confidence elsewhere. These shifts are not always intentional. Human beings naturally move toward what satisfies their current desires. This understanding changes the way you interpret praise. Compliments should be appreciated but not worshipped. Approval often reflects how someone feels in the present moment rather than how they will behave in the future. A person can sincerely admire you today and sincerely resent you tomorrow if changing circumstances alter how they perceive your success. Human emotions are fluid and self-interest frequently influences them without conscious awareness. History repeatedly demonstrates that alliances are rarely permanent. Powerful leaders have been abandoned by trusted advisors. Victorious commanders have been betrayed by loyal officers. Influential figures have watched their closest supporters disappear once their power faded. These events were not random accidents. They reflected the reality that many relationships were built upon shared advantage rather than unbreakable loyalty. As long as both sides benefited, cooperation flourished. Once those benefits disappeared, so did the relationship. Understanding self-interest also protects you from manipulation. Some people know exactly how to appeal to your emotions while quietly pursuing their own goals. They may flatter you, agree with your opinions, or present themselves as loyal companions because they recognize the value you provide. Perhaps you have influence they desire, knowledge they can use, or opportunities they hope to access. Their friendliness may feel genuine because in that moment it is beneficial for them to maintain your trust. The mistake is believing that their current behavior guarantees future commitment. This perspective does not require becoming cynical or assuming the worst about everyone you meet. Instead, it encourages observation over assumption. Rather than judging people solely by what they promise, pay attention to the patterns behind their choices. Notice what they consistently protect, what they willingly sacrifice, and what causes their priorities to shift. Every decision reveals a person's hierarchy of values more clearly than their words ever could. When you recognize that self-interest quietly influences nearly everyone, you become less vulnerable to disappointment, less surprised by changing loyalties, and far more capable of understanding why people behave the way they do. Nothing exposes the true nature of a relationship more clearly than the extremes of success and failure. During ordinary times, it is easy for people to appear loyal, supportive, and dependable because there is little at stake. Life feels stable, expectations are low, and everyone can comfortably play the role of a good friend. But when fortune suddenly changes, whether you rise far above those around you or fall into hardship, the masks begin to slip, hidden emotions surface, priorities shift, and people reveal parts of themselves that neither you nor they may have recognized before. Most people believe success naturally attracts admiration. In reality, success attracts admiration, curiosity, opportunity, comparison, and envy all all at the same time. The moment your life begins to improve in visible ways, you unknowingly become a mirror reflecting the ambitions and insecurities of everyone around you. Those who are confident in themselves may celebrate your achievements with genuine happiness. Those struggling with their own disappointments may smile on the outside while quietly comparing your progress to their own lack of it. They may never openly admit these feelings because envy is an uncomfortable emotion, but it often influences behavior in subtle ways. You may notice conversations becoming different. Friends who once encouraged your goals begin minimizing your accomplishments. They change the subject whenever your success is mentioned or explain away your achievements as luck rather than effort. Some stop inviting you to certain gatherings because your presence reminds them of what they have not achieved. Others become unusually critical, pointing out flaws that never seemed to matter before. These reactions are rarely sudden explosions of resentment. They develop gradually, often without conscious intention, until the relationship feels noticeably colder than it once did. At the same time, success attracts people who had little interest in you before. Individuals who ignored your presence suddenly become friendly. Old acquaintances reappear with enthusiasm. New relationships form quickly because people naturally gravitate toward those they perceive as valuable, influential, or capable of opening doors. While some of these connections may become genuine over time, many are built upon the opportunities your success appears to offer. Distinguishing sincere appreciation from calculated interest requires patience rather than excitement. Failure creates an equally revealing test, though in the opposite direction. When your reputation suffers, your finances decline, or your confidence weakens, the crowd often begins to disappear. Invitations become less frequent. Messages go unanswered. People who once sought your company become too busy to meet. Some quietly distance themselves because they fear being associated with someone who is struggling. Others simply lose interest because the benefits they once enjoyed from your friendship no longer exist. Their departure can feel deeply painful because you believe the relationship was built on something stronger than circumstances. Yet failure also reveals something invaluable, strips away superficial connections, and exposes the people who remain despite receiving little in return. These individuals do not stay because of your status or success. They stay because they value your character, your history together, or the bond you have built over time. Such loyalty is rare precisely because it survives conditions that cause weaker relationships to collapse. Pressure has always revealed character more effectively than comfort. Anyone can appear generous when giving costs very little. Anyone can promise support when no sacrifice is required. But when helping another person demands time, effort, reputation, or personal risk, true priorities become visible. This is why moments of crisis are often remembered long after moments of celebration. They expose the difference between words and actions. Another important lesson is that people often surprise themselves during these moments. Someone who sincerely believed they would remain loyal may discover that fear, ambition, or self-preservation pulls them in another direction. Likewise, a quiet acquaintance you never expected to depend upon may become one of the most reliable people in your life. Human character is difficult to measure until circumstances force difficult choices. Ordinary conversations reveal personality. Extraordinary situations reveal values. This understanding also changes how you should evaluate your own relationships. Instead of judging friendships by the number of shared memories or years spent together, observe how they respond to change. Do they celebrate your growth without making it about themselves? Do they offer honest encouragement during your lowest moments without expecting immediate rewards? Do they remain consistent when life becomes inconvenient? Consistency across changing circumstances is one of the strongest indicators of genuine character. Neither success nor failure lasts forever. Fortune rises and falls, opportunities appear and disappear, and every person eventually experiences both victory and loss. Those changing seasons act as powerful tests that no one can avoid. They expose hidden motives, reveal silent resentment, strengthen authentic bonds, and dissolve relationships that depended only on comfort, convenience, or personal advantage. One of the most expensive mistakes a person can make is giving trust too quickly. The desire to believe in people is natural. Everyone wants to feel understood, accepted, and emotionally secure. When someone speaks kindly, shares similar interests, or makes you feel valued, it is tempting to assume they deserve your complete confidence. But first impressions are often performances rather than permanent reflections of character. People naturally present the best version of themselves when entering a new relationship. They hide their flaws, control their emotions, and reveal only the qualities they believe others will admire. This is not always an act of deception. It is simply human nature to seek acceptance before exposing vulnerability. Because of this, trust should never be based on charm alone. Charm is a skill, not proof of integrity. A person can be intelligent, funny, generous, and charismatic while still acting in their own interests when circumstances change. Many of the most persuasive individuals understand exactly how to create emotional connections. They know how to make others feel important, how to say the right words at the right moment, and how to build confidence quickly. Their ability to earn trust does not necessarily mean they deserve it. Time is one of the greatest tests of character because maintaining a false image requires enormous effort. Eventually, everyone becomes tired of pretending. Habits replace performances, emotions become harder to control, and genuine values begin to appear. This is why patience is more valuable than excitement when building relationships. Instead of rushing to label someone as trustworthy, allow time to reveal who they consistently choose to be. Character is not measured by isolated moments of kindness, but by repeated patterns of behavior over weeks, months, and years. Observation is a skill that many people neglect because they become distracted by words. Promises are attractive because they provide immediate reassurance. They satisfy emotional needs without requiring evidence. However, actions always reveal more than promises. Watch how a person treats those who cannot benefit them. Observe how they respond when they are frustrated, disappointed, or under pressure. Notice whether they keep small commitments before believing they will honor larger ones. The smallest habits often predict the biggest decisions because they reflect deeply rooted values rather than carefully prepared speeches. Pay close attention to how people handle the success of others. Someone who genuinely supports another person's achievements without becoming bitter demonstrates emotional maturity. On the other hand, someone who constantly compares themselves, criticizes accomplishments, or dismisses another person's progress may struggle with envy that eventually influences the relationship. These emotions often remain hidden during ordinary conversations but become visible when life creates differences in status, wealth, recognition, or opportunity. Equally important is observing how someone speaks about people who are absent. A person who regularly shares private conversations, mocks friends behind their backs, or spreads rumors about others is quietly revealing a habit that may one day include you. Many people assume they are exceptions, believing that someone who gossips about everyone else will somehow remain completely loyal to them. This belief ignores the consistency of human behavior. Habits rarely change depending on the audience. If dishonesty appears in one relationship, it is likely to appear in others as well. Another valuable lesson is learning not to reveal everything about yourself too early. Many people confuse openness with trust. They share their deepest fears, personal struggles, financial details, or future plans within the first stages of knowing someone because emotional honesty feels comforting. While vulnerability has its place, it should be earned rather than freely distributed. Information has value, and once shared, it cannot be taken back. A trustworthy person will protect your confidence, but someone driven by jealousy, resentment, or personal gain may eventually use that same information against you during moments of conflict. Patience also protects you from emotional manipulation. Some individuals create intense friendships very quickly by expressing exaggerated admiration, constant attention, and overwhelming affection. They make you feel as though you have known each other for years after only a short time. This intensity can be exciting because it creates the illusion of deep connection. Yet genuine trust grows steadily, not suddenly. Relationships built too quickly often lack the foundation necessary to survive disagreement, disappointment, or changing circumstances. Observation requires emotional discipline because it asks you to resist making immediate conclusions. Instead of assuming someone is either completely trustworthy or completely unreliable, gather evidence over time. Notice whether their actions remain consistent when situations become difficult. Watch how they react when they gain power, lose control, experience failure, or encounter temptation. Pressure often reveals qualities that comfort successfully hides. A person who remains honest when lying would be easier, respectful when anger would be accepted, and dependable when excuses are available demonstrates a level of character that cannot be manufactured through words alone. Trust earned through careful observation is far stronger than trust granted through emotion because it rests upon reality rather than expectation. One of the greatest forms of strength a person can develop is emotional independence. It is the ability to remain steady regardless of who stays, who leaves, who praises you, or who rejects you. Most people spend their lives tying their emotional well-being to the opinions and actions of others. They feel confident when they are admired, valuable when they are included, and secure when they receive constant attention. But the moment those external sources of validation disappear, their confidence begins to collapse. They question their worth, doubt their abilities, and desperately search for reassurance from the very people whose approval has become their emotional foundation. This dependence creates an invisible weakness that others can sense. A person who constantly needs acceptance becomes easier to manipulate because their decisions are influenced by the fear of losing relationships. They remain silent when they should speak, tolerate disrespect they should reject, and compromise their principles simply to avoid being abandoned. Instead of living according to their values, they begin living according to the expectations of those around them. Every decision becomes an attempt to keep everyone satisfied, even if it comes at the cost of their own peace of mind. Emotional independence begins with understanding that your value does not increase when someone admires you, nor does it decrease when someone criticizes you. Other people's opinions are often reflections of their own experiences, insecurities, expectations, and emotions rather than objective measures of your character. One person may appreciate your confidence while another sees it as arrogance. One may admire your ambition while another feels threatened by it. If your identity changes with every opinion you encounter, you will spend your entire life chasing approval that can never remain consistent. Many people fear loneliness because they mistake being alone for being abandoned. These are not the same. Loneliness becomes painful when a person believes they cannot function without constant companionship. Solitude, however, is the ability to enjoy your own company without feeling incomplete. A person comfortable with solitude develops a level of inner stability that cannot easily be shaken. They do not remain in unhealthy relationships simply because they fear being alone. They understand that temporary solitude is far healthier than permanent dependence on people who fail to respect them. This independence also changes the way you approach friendships. Instead of desperately trying to hold on to every relationship, you begin appreciating people without becoming emotionally attached to their permanence. You enjoy their presence while accepting that life changes. Careers shift, priorities evolve, families grow, and circumstances transform. Some friendships naturally fade despite good intentions. Emotional independence allows you to experience these changes without interpreting every departure as a personal rejection or failure. Another important aspect of emotional independence is learning to separate your happiness from external achievements and recognition. Society often teaches that success is measured by popularity, influence, and the admiration of others. Social media reinforces this belief by encouraging people to measure their worth through attention, followers, and public approval. The result is a generation that constantly looks outward for proof of inner value. Every compliment provides temporary confidence, while every criticism creates unnecessary anxiety. This cycle leaves people emotionally exhausted because they are trying to control something that has never been fully within their power. When your confidence comes from your own discipline, character, and personal growth, outside opinions lose much of their influence. Praise becomes pleasant rather than necessary. Criticism becomes information rather than destruction. Rejection becomes a normal part of life rather than evidence of personal inadequacy. You begin making decisions based on your principles instead of temporary emotions. This inner stability gives you the courage to pursue meaningful goals even when others misunderstand your intentions. Emotionally independent people also become far more selective about the relationships they allow into their lives. They do not tolerate manipulation simply because they fear losing company. They recognize that respect cannot exist where boundaries are constantly ignored. Instead of chasing attention from people who repeatedly disappoint them, they quietly distance themselves and protect their peace. Their standards become higher because they no longer believe any relationship is better than no relationship. Ironically, this independence often strengthens relationships rather than weakening them. People naturally respect those who are confident without being arrogant, caring without being desperate, and supportive without becoming emotionally dependent. Healthy friendships are built between individuals who choose each other's company, not those who desperately need it. The absence of desperation creates honesty, mutual respect, and freedom. Neither person feels responsible for carrying the other's emotional stability because both have already learned how to stand firmly on their own. Their connection becomes a choice instead of a necessity, allowing trust, appreciation, and genuine respect to grow without the pressure of constant emotional dependence. Most people spend their lives searching for the perfect friend, the perfect partner, or the perfect circle of loyal companions. They believe that somewhere in the world there are people who will never disappoint them, never misunderstand them, and never leave them. This endless search becomes an emotional trap because it places happiness in the hands of circumstances that can never be fully controlled. No matter how kind, intelligent, or trustworthy someone may seem, they remain human. They have fears, ambitions, weaknesses, and changing priorities. Expecting perfection from imperfect people guarantees disappointment. The wiser path is not to spend your life chasing absolute loyalty from others, but to develop mastery over yourself. Self-mastery begins with accepting responsibility for your own emotional state. Instead of blaming every disappointment on betrayal or bad luck, you begin asking deeper questions. Why did someone's departure destroy your confidence? Why did another person's criticism ruin your peace? Why did the loss of one relationship make you question your own worth? These questions shift your attention away from other people and back toward the only person you can truly shape, yourself. The more control you gain over your own thoughts and emotions, the less control others have over your life. A person who has mastered themselves does not become emotionally numb. They still experience disappointment, sadness, and frustration. The difference is that these emotions no longer dictate every decision. They recognize emotions without becoming prisoners of them. When someone walks away, they allow themselves to feel the loss, but they do not allow it to define their future. When they experience rejection, they learn from it without believing it determines their value. Emotional resilience grows from the understanding that temporary pain does not have to become permanent suffering. Self-mastery also requires discipline because the mind naturally seeks comfort over growth. It is easier to complain than to improve. It is easier to blame others than to examine your own weaknesses. It is easier to seek revenge than to move forward with dignity. Every day presents opportunities to choose between immediate emotional satisfaction and long-term personal development. The person who consistently chooses growth develops a strength that cannot be taken away by changing relationships or external circumstances. One of the greatest signs of self-mastery is learning to respond instead of react. Most conflicts become worse because people allow anger to control their words and actions. An insult immediately produces another insult. A betrayal creates an endless desire for revenge. A disagreement turns into permanent hostility because neither side pauses long enough to think clearly. The individual who controls their reactions possesses an invisible advantage. courage. They are not manipulated by the emotions of others because they have learned to manage their own. Calmness becomes a form of power, allowing them to make decisions based on reason rather than impulse. Another important aspect of mastering yourself is knowing your principles before life tests them. People who have never defined their values often change them depending on the situation. They become honest when honesty is convenient and dishonest when lying seems profitable. They remain loyal only while loyalty benefits them. They act with confidence only when surrounded by approval. A person with genuine self-mastery builds their character on principles rather than circumstances. Their integrity remains stable because it comes from internal conviction instead of external pressure. Mastering yourself also means becoming comfortable with uncertainty. You stop demanding guarantees from life because you understand that none exist. Friendships may change, opportunities may disappear, success may rise and fall, health, wealth, and reputation may all fluctuate over time. Instead of fearing these realities, you prepare yourself mentally to face them with courage. You understand that while you cannot control every event, you can always control your response. This mindset transforms obstacles into lessons rather than disasters. As your self-awareness grows, you become less interested in controlling other people and more interested in controlling your own habits, thoughts, and actions. You stop wasting energy trying to force loyalty, earn universal approval, or prove your worth to those determined not to see it. Instead, you invest that energy in developing knowledge, discipline, confidence, patience, and emotional stability. These qualities remain with you regardless of who enters or leaves your life. Ironically, the moment you stop chasing loyalty is often the moment you begin attracting healthier relationships. People naturally trust those who trust themselves. They respect individuals who possess quiet confidence rather than constant neediness. They value those who offer genuine friendship without demanding emotional dependence in return. By mastering yourself, you become someone whose happiness cannot be easily manipulated, whose peace cannot be easily stolen, and whose direction cannot be easily changed by the opinions of others. In the end, life will always bring new people into your path, and it will just as surely take some away. That is the rhythm of human existence, and no amount of wishing can change it. What you can change is the person you become through every meeting, every disappointment, every success, and every loss. When your strength comes from within, no betrayal can completely break you, no praise can completely control you, and no rejection can permanently diminish your sense of worth. The greatest victory you will ever achieve is not finding people who never fail you. It is becoming a person who never abandons their own principles, their own growth, and their own inner strength. That is the kind of power that endures long after every temporary relationship has run its course.